This is the first part of the Renaissance unit, looking at what exactly is the Renaissance. In order to figure that out, we need to look at what life was like before the Renaissance, in the period known as the Middle Ages. During this time period, Europe functions with a feudal system where you have knights and kings, well, kings at the top, and then knights and the nobles and the clergy, and then knights and then the peasants. Very similar to what we learned about with Japan. Life is going to center around the church and religion. Everything about your life is focused on religion during this time period. Okay, the Crusades are going to be fought in the Middle East during the Middle Ages. The idea of the individual is not important. It's not something that people think about. They're more focused on community survival. Okay, all of the communities are going to work together to harvest their fields so that the community can survive the winter. During the Middle Ages, which is roughly the time period from like 1000 to 1400, 1300. We're also going to see the bubonic plague happen. The plague came in from Asia through trade routes. About 30 to 50% of the European population died. We're still not entirely sure the amount, but it was a really big time. Because so many people died, workers could argue for higher wages. And this meant they were likely to be paid more because labor was fewer. So, we move out of the Middle Ages into the time period known as the Renaissance. The time period is about 1300 to 1600, but the peak of the time period is going to be about 1500. Renaissance in Latin means rebirth, or it's actually in French, means rebirth. So it's the rebirth of classical knowledge. We're getting the revival of Greek and Roman culture. It's going to start in Italy. That's where the Greek and Roman culture is. It's going to be a revival of creativity. People are starting to be creative in what they're creating rather than just doing what's been done before. And as I just said, it's going to start in Italy and spread throughout Europe. So what is causing the Renaissance? Well, a couple things happen. First, city-states are going to form in Italy due to trade. Okay, we're going to see goods and ideas travel through the Ottoman Empire on the Silk Road and land in Venice through the Mediterranean sea routes. And that's going to, all of that trade means you need a place where the merchants can meet. Thus, we have city-states form. Okay, so it's like a city and the land surrounding it controlled as a separate country. In urban ideas, we're going to have ideas spread. If you're a mile away from your neighbor, you're not going to talk to them very often. Okay, if your neighbor is right upstairs, you're going to talk to them more often. So ideas, people are talking. Wealthy merchants from trade are also going to have money to spend on the arts. These wealthy merchants are called patrons. They're the ones who are supporting the artists and paying for Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel and things like that. They're wealthy because of trade, and we have one family that we need to know about named the Medici. They are from Florence, Italy, and they are a banking family. So they're going to be super wealthy and pay for a lot of art. The other thing is that it's located in Italy. Okay, they're very close to the ruins of Greece and Rome. They can dig in their backyard and find, statues from ancient Rome, or sail over to Greece and find ancient statues and architecture and old manuscripts that had been hidden away. Whereas people up in England didn't have that opportunity. Russia, they didn't really have that opportunity. They also didn't have the trade there. So trade is the number one cause. And then sub-causes would be the formation of city-states, wealthy merchants, and their location in Rome. Now, when we talk about the Renaissance, we got to talk about all of this creativity that's happening. And so later on in the unit, we're going to talk about some art. And there are some artists and people we need to know. Okay, we're going to need to know Michelangelo, we're going to need to know Raphael, we're going to need to know Leonardo da Vinci, and Albrecht Dürer. We're also going to see changes in literature, and so we have some authors we need to know. We're going to talk about Shakespeare, our author of plays and sonnets from England that you've read in English class. We're going to talk a little bit about Erasmus, who is called the father of humanism. We're going to talk about Sir Thomas More, who writes Utopia, and Machiavelli, who writes a book called The Prince, about governing. So what are some of the new ideas that are happening during the Renaissance? Well, the first idea is called humanism. Okay, look at the root of the word, human. Okay, so it's going to be the emphasis on the importance of the individual rather than emphasis on the community. Okay, humanists like Erasmus are going to tell you to focus on studying history, literature, philosophy, reading and writing, all of those kinds of things. What focus on the human? Okay, these studies are known as the humanities today when you go to college. The other idea we get is the idea of secularism, or the secular. Secular means worldly, or non-religious, non-spiritual, so it's things not relating to the church. It's focusing on enjoying life here and now. I'm going to spend my money on having a banquet or getting a new outfit rather than saving my money and donating it to the church so I can have a better afterlife in heaven. Now, how are these ideas spreading around the world? Well, or at least around Europe. They're going to be spreading throughout the printing press. Okay, Johannes Gutenberg, is going to invent the printing press. And then he prints a complete Bible in vernacular. Vernacular is the common language, so English or French or German. In the past, Bibles were always printed in Latin. Okay, so this is a really radical change because it means that people who don't speak Latin but speak English can read the Bible. Okay, that's a new thing, and it's going to lead to our Protestant Reformation. But the printing press also means that rather than a monk taking 40 days to copy down half of a Bible, we can print 40 Bibles in one day by just printing the pages with a printing press. It's a lot faster, okay? So what are the effects of the printing press? Well, faster bookmaking means that we have advances in learning and increases in literacy. More people can have access to books, which means more people learn how to read, which is literacy. If more people can read, more people can interpret the Bible for themselves. Rather than going to Mass on Sundays at the Catholic Church and listening to the priest read the Bible to you, you're going to go home and have a Bible at home, because books are cheaper if there are more of them, and figure out what that verse meant to you rather than just blindly believing the priest. So that's going to be a really big change. Okay? We're also going to see all of these things, these new ideas, these people creating art, the printing press, lead to a couple of different things. It's going to lead to the Protestant Reformation. We start questioning the church, the Catholic Church. Okay, and we're going to see some new denominations of the Christian faith emerge. People are going to start exploring the world around us, which is going to be our exploration unit. Let's just delete that little typo. We're going to see the scientific revolution emerge when people start questioning the world around us after they've explored it, and we start to realize that, oh hey, maybe the sun is not revolving around the earth and the earth's not at the center. Maybe the sun's at the center and the earth is moving around it. Okay, so that's going to be a new big thing later on. After all of that, we're going to start questioning ideas about government, called the Enlightenment. But all of these are going to be effects of the Renaissance. So that's an important thing to remember as well. Hope you enjoyed the notes. Check back later for more.